Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to my weekly deck reviews. So I am much better than I was last weekend, but my voice is still a little, well, iffy. Also, I have Bruno who would like to come say hello. Hi buddy, come on up. In any case, please bear with me. My voice is still a little cracky and scratchy and maybe coffee. We'll see how it goes. But I do have a cup of tea in my new Ouija board mug that Peggy got me over the weekend with some hot tea, and I added extra honey. So hopefully, if this gets cool enough to actually sip on, I won't cough during this video because that means editing. And I don't want to edit today. Let's just be honest. So if you are new to my channel, welcome. If you're new to weekly deck reviews, let me give you the rundown. So every single week I work with one tarot and one oracle deck, and I work with them solidly throughout the week as my main go-tos for my daily practice, which usually involves single card draws, as well as any spreads that I want to do throughout the week, any questions I feel like I want to ask the tarot throughout the week, that sort of thing. And at the end of the week, I like to let you guys know how those decks worked out for me. I bring a lot of new things into my collection over time, and I like to check in and actually see how those decks are performing, or how I'm connecting with them, how they're working out for me, that sort of thing. So this past week, I have been working with the Inner Child cards. These are by Isha and Mark Lerner, and the artwork is by, let's see if it actually says on the book. Some of these older decks. Ah yes, illustrated by Christopher Guilfoyle. This is one of the original printings. So this is the first printing, I believe, from 1994. So I got my hands on this, an older copy. My copy did have quite a bit of damage when it came in. So it had some mildew damage and things like that. I got it through a used bookseller. So my cards have, well, a lot of wear. If you tuned in last week, this is what the backs look like. If you tuned in last week, then you heard me talking about whether or not I wanted to modify this deck. I did not modify it. I was thinking about trimming it, maybe edging it, doing some other things, but I've just decided to keep it exactly as it is. Some of these cards are like wrinkled because when the deck arrived, because of the moisture damage, they were really stuck together. So some of them have, like, you can kind of see, but some of them have quite a bit of damage. Some of the cards are kind of okay. I did hear that the current version, I put it back in order so that I could potentially do a walkthrough or flip through of this deck for my channel. If you want to see a flip through of this deck on my channel, let me know and I will film one for you. But I'm having a hard time doing regular recorded videos for any length of time lately because I start to cough and my voice starts to go. So, but in any case, what was I saying? Oh yes, the wear on the deck. Oh, that's what it was. They came so stuck together that I had to peel them apart. I think I might have mentioned that. This is a fairy tale themed deck. So Sleeping Beauty for the Death card. We have the Fairy Godmother for the Moon. I think this is the Moon. Yeah, this is the Moon. And then through the minors, we just have sort of whimsical characters. Now, the thing about this deck, and I think this is the reason that I originally rehomed it back in the early 2000s and then decided I needed it back. But the thing about this deck is that this doesn't necessarily follow Rider-Waite-Smith the way that you would expect it to. Some of the cards, especially through the majors, they definitely line up. In the minors, they tend to go their own way. So let me share an example from my weekly spreads this week, actually. I drew on one of the days the Four of Hearts, which is equivalent to the Rider-Waite-Smith Four of Cups. Now, the Four of Cups is typically a card about heartbreak and loss. And this card is a lot sadder than I think we normally see the Four of Cups. She has a bit of she has a little broken heart necklace in this picture, and her boat has sank or something like that. And her friends are over here going, we're gonna come and help you out. We're gonna help make things better. So it follows Rider-Waite-Smith, but when I first saw this image, it felt more Five of Cups, like more sort of grief kind of feeling. But then the Five of Cups shows a girl with a treasure chest. Pardon my sipping. I try to keep that throat under control. But the guidebook does talk about how she's grieving. So I don't know, it seems to stray. Now, I will say this deck has a very healing sort of energy to it. I think I showed that card already. It has a very healing vibe. So I found it very gentle and nurturing to work with throughout the week, especially since I'm recovering from a nasty flu. And these cards, partly because they're so oversized, partly because the illustrations are so whimsical, They just make me feel sort of small and taken care of, which I think is sort of the purpose of the inner child cards, is to help you connect with that more inner child energy. And when I am not feeling well, my inner child wants to feel comforted and held and nurtured. And this deck definitely did that for me this week. I'm so glad that I reached for it because it was everything that I sort of needed this week. And I really enjoyed working with it, to be completely honest. I would say that I'm not sure, it would take me some time, I think, to be able to use this in a spread, or read for other people with it, and I don't know that I really ever will. This is one of those decks that has a lot of memories for me because it was one of the first decks I ever bought back in the late 90s when I first started reading tarot, and it lived in my collection for quite a few years. At that time, the reason I had ended up rehoming it is because I very rarely reached for it, but what I realized is that when I want a deck like this, I just want it. And I may not reach for this deck very often, but at the same time, I feel like it so filled a need for me this week and reminded me what's so wonderful about it that I'm so glad I have another copy of this in my collection. In theory, I don't know if you can see on the top some of the water spots and mildew damage that's on the cards. In theory, I should get me a new copy, but there's something about the fact now, I think part of it is that the fact that this has some damage now after I've worked with it this week, it almost made it feel more like my original copy. Does that make any sense? My original copy was actually in much better shape when I rehomed it, but there's something about the way that the cards are messed up and feel a little bit older that kind of connects me with that energy of my original deck. And I don't know if anybody's had that experience, but you must have, because I know I got a couple of comments last week by some subscribers. I can't remember names right now, I'm so sorry, but where some of you said don't modify it because the fact that it's kind of worn and a little beat up might actually grow on you, kind of thing. And it certainly did this week, so that actually makes me feel a lot better. Because I've been working with it all week, the scent, that kind of mildewy, like old attic smell, is definitely starting to dissipate, which is good. And now I've been keeping it in one of the first Peggy bags that she ever made. This week it's this really kind of whimsical owly design. I think I might make, oh, spoiler alert, I got a sewing machine and Peggy's teaching me some things, so I'm kind of doing a couple like simple little basic projects for myself. I might try to make myself a different bag while she's busy working on her shop stuff. I might try to make myself a different bag for this deck, but I definitely really liked working with it. I definitely feel like I wanted to work with it beside the book. Now, as far as the book goes, it's a really nice quality book, you guys. It's hardbound. They don't make a lot of tarot decks like this anymore, but a lot of decks used to come when they came with in a kit like this with a book. The books were really nice quality, but you get a nice full-sized black and white image. You get lots of text for every card, like the Three Little Pigs card, which is the Judgment card, has like first page, second page, third page of text in it. It's just really wonderful. I'm using my title card. I think you can, yeah, I'm using my title card as a bookmark. As far as spreads go, this one's called The Wishing Well. Look at how many cards. Actually, I think this is something about spreading the cards out into a big pile. It's like a group thing. And then you have this big rainbow spread. And there's another one here called The Child Layout, which is child spelled out. That's actually a shorter one. That's a 5-card spread, so that's not so bad. But yeah, big spreads were just the thing. But yes, I really enjoyed this. I didn't do any of these included spreads, I don't think. This rainbow one would be good because it's like it's an all-arounder. So you've got physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, future mental, future emotional, future physical. So that's kind of a fun one to play with. But the writing in here is really good. Again, it has a very sort of almost new agey healing kind of feel to it. And the Oracle deck that I worked with beside the inner child cards was this adorable Field Guide to Garden Dragons. I will try to remember to link my full walkthrough up in the cards. If I forget, I did link it last week, or you can go right to my channel and click the little search box down below in the channel part and search it up. It's one of my more recent walkthroughs, but this is a really cute deck. So this deck's artwork is by Stephen Morrison. The guidebook is by Arwen Lynch, who does make video or has made videos in our community. This is what the backings look like. And this artwork is adorable. And somebody pointed out to me when I did the walkthrough, or when I talked about this last weekend, my little dog is sneezing to try to get my attention. You can actually get figurines of these dragons, or at least some of them. but they're all like sort of food themed, because the idea is that these are dragons that live in like your kitchen garden. So there's a tomato dragon and a corn dragon, pumpkin, peanut butter cracks me up. Peanut butter's super adorable. Look at him. There's also a jelly dragon in here. There's a pineapple dragon. I feel like this deck would be really fun to work with for kitchen witchery or kitchen magic when you're preparing food and things like that, to think about intentions. Several people have commented on my walkthrough that they're going to be using this with their children or for their child. It's a very all ages friendly kind of deck that does teach a little bit about gardening and a little bit about food and its benefits in the guidebook, which is really clever. You kind of have to read between the lines, but let me give you an example. So, mushroom dragon's habitat. The moister the better for this woodland dragon. Heat is a necessity as well. Typically you'll find these dragons congregating in areas with the dark musty fragrances of earth and organic matter. They prefer shade to direct sunlight, so a heavily forested area with a solid layer of detritus is a prime viewing spot. Once winter cold hits, this dragon will not be seen. Researchers believe that they hibernate, but there is debate as to where. So it's written like a little field guide to the dragon, but if you read the habitat, that tells you a little bit about the growing conditions of the plant that dragon is associated with. And if you look at the appearance, it describes the actual appearance of the dragon. Then there's a section called Field Notes. So again, with the mushroom dragon, coloring of these creatures varies from one specimen to the next, and an observant watcher can distinguish one individual dragon from another by their spots. Each pattern is as distinctive as a human's fingerprint or a zebra's stripes. There are over 30 species of mushroom dragons that glow in the dark. So you do get a cool little tidbit about mushrooms, but you're hearing about mushroom dragons. So there's some cool teaching tidbits here if you are working with this for kids or you are interested in gardening. Let's see if I can prevent this cough. Wish me luck. Hopefully the tea will help. But yeah, this is just really fun. And there is a little divinatory message in every card. I actually found that the messages from these little dragons worked really well beside the inner child cards. And because I was in that inner child space working with that tarot deck, this deck just was really fun to work with beside it. And it's a fun deck. And I love these adorable little baby dragons that look like food. Like, I mean, how can you not love them? They're just adorable. I don't think I showed you enough cards, but hopefully you get the idea. And I show all the cards in my walkthrough so you can check that out. So the tarot deck that I'm going to be working with, I have so many things to say about this. Okay, but I'm going to try to keep it short so I don't cough on you. So when I first found out about this deck, I completely fell in love and I started following the artist and looking for updates and that sort of thing. And then when I pre-ordered it, I was like, you know what? This deck's going to come in the late fall, early winter. I am going to work with this deck for the week of Christmas because it just felt like a fun week to work with it. And this deck is actually what gave me the idea to do a fairy tale December. But I'm going to be working with the Forest of Enchantment Tarot. I keep wanting to call it the Enchanted Forest Tarot, but it's the Forest of Enchantment Tarot. The artwork is by Linnea Weatherstone and it's illustrated by Mariela Allwood. It comes in this really nice sturdy box with a magnetic flap. I've already taken my deck out, but look at the inside even with this adorable like swan reflection in the back, and there's a ribbon here for your cards. Love the new packaging from Llewellyn. These boxes are really nice. If you're somebody who likes to store your decks on a shelf, like on a bookshelf, like look at how beautiful that would look on a shelf. I do not. I'm actually in a different location. Usually I'm filming in my bedroom. You can see my wall with my decks hanging all around me. That's how I like to store my decks. But a lot of people store theirs on bookshelves, and if that is you, this is a really nice box for that. Now I have rehomed my deck into a temporary home while I figure out what its permanent home is going to be. But right now I have it in one of Peggy's new little single deck wrap bags, just so that I can work with it throughout the week. So this is a bag that opens up into like a little reading cloth, and she's just starting to make these. So there's not any in her shop right now. I don't think, maybe one of a certain design. But it's just designed to hold your deck. She's also made these double pocket bags where it's big enough to hold the Llewellyn book, and then it's got a second pocket for the deck in front, and it wraps like this. It's bigger though. But for this week, I just thought that would make it easy to transport. So you've probably seen this. I'm very late to the party because I didn't want to work with this deck until this upcoming week. So I'm really excited, but this is what the backs look like. It's really, really beautiful. These are the cards. I'm sure you've seen these around the YouTubes, but mine's still in order. This is what these look like. I'm really, really excited. These have a very fairy tale feeling to them. I haven't worked with the deck, but I have to admit, read the entire guidebook because I read it as soon as the deck came in. I just read the entire guidebook cover to cover. And I have a few things I want to share with you about this deck right up front. This artwork, let me just grab the Magician card because it's such a good example. It's called the Enchanter. It's incredibly detailed artwork. And the original artwork is about the same size as the cards are now. Maybe even slightly smaller or slightly bigger, I'm not sure, but they were pretty close. This particular artist, Linnea Weatherstone, is known for doing miniature artwork. And the detail is absolutely incredible. But it doesn't feel like the kind of detail that keeps me from sinking into the card, like with decks like the Shadowscape. It feels like the kind of artwork that draws you in. Even though there's all these fine little details, it was drawn at its real size, if that makes any sense. So the details still are easy to see and for your brain to interpret, and I just feel like it works really well. This artwork has not been downsized or upsized to any great percentage, so you're seeing it in its truest sort of form. And I'm just really excited to work with it. The other neat thing about this, since I have read the whole guidebook, which I'll share right now, we'll see how it actually works out this week. But the other neat thing is that throughout the guidebook, you get these little tidbits at the bottom that say a closer look. So it's like that, a closer look. And a closer look gives you a little tidbit about that card. And also, can we talk about the full color illustrations in the guidebook? Holy frickin' moly. Look at those full page, full color. So you actually get a bigger artwork in the book if you want to examine details even more closely. But the closer look section gives you something to notice about the image. So for example, in the Two of Spells card, which is the Two of Wands, it says a closer look. The staves in his hands are Yew left and Alder right, because he's holding Oghams. And it says Alder is for prophecy and oracular powers, and the maker of these staves says Yew was historically used for wooden Ogham staves. It is a deep, dense, dark, rich wood full of resonance with the other world. So throughout the deck, even though you see what you notice right away in the card, the closer look section gives you something else, a little Easter egg. Like in this one, it says, as you can see, there's not much diversity among the gnomes, which is one reason they are suspicious of non-gnomes, which is really interesting, hey? So that's really cool. So anyways, I'm looking forward to working with this week. I think it's going to be a really enchanting, lovely deck to work with the week of Christmas with all the holiday magic and things like that going on. I'm really looking forward to playing with it and just seeing how it behaves with my other Oracle deck that I'm going to be using alongside it, which, speaking of which, let me show you what I'm going to be using beside it. So this week, next to the Forest of Enchantment, I'm going to be working with the Pathfinder Oracle. Now, I also did a full walkthrough unboxing of this deck alongside the Earthbound Oracle by the same artist, created by, Andrew Swartz. Sometimes he goes by A.L. Swartz. So these are diamond cards. And again, I will link the full walkthrough up in the cards if I haven't already. And these have a directional element to them. So as you can see, you have different moon phases that help you know which direction you're facing. So what I like to do with decks like this is take the whole pile and just sort of like give it a little spiral twist in my hands so that I can work with the direction, and then shuffle either overhand or I'll rifle shuffle. And every once in a while, I'll just pick up a pile of the cards. That was a terrible shuffle. And I'll just twist it around the other way. Square cards sometimes don't like to shuffle the way that I want. So I might take a pile like this and just give it a quarter turn. I might take a different pile, give it another quarter turn, and just kind of play with them so that you can get that directional element in there. Because there is basically a like a light, shadow, active, and passive, depending on which direction the cards are facing. So I'm really excited about that. And what I've done is it comes with this little white book. Did I lose the little white book? Oh no, it's in the lid. It comes with a little tiny guidebook. Simple, black and white, nothing fancy, but it tells you for each card, based on which direction the card is facing, which moon phase is active, what the message is. So I've got that, and it also came with a little yes/no flip coin, which is super useful. This is the business card for Skull Garden, Andrew Swartz's business. But because I backed this on Kickstarter, it also came with, it's this diamond thing just freaks me out because it's like square, but it's actually a diamond. Anyway, it also came with a mini version of the deck. So what I might do this week actually is carry around the little mini in my purse. But the mini doesn't have any titles, so I'm not really sure. The thing that gives me pause about this deck, and I guess we'll see how it works out this week, is I'm not sure how I'll do with the meanings and the titles and stuff. Like, I don't know how intuitive this deck is going to be. Yeah, we'll just have to see. Because sometimes it's hard for me to tell until I've actually laid the card down as part of my practice and then just kind of seen how it all plays out. So I will let you guys know how this works out. I think this next to the Forest of Enchantment will go really good. I think the art style is fairly compatible, so we will see. And I don't know how or if I'm going to work the mini deck into my practice this week, so I will let you guys know. From a reading cloth perspective, I have been using this really bright, colorful Spirals cloth all of last week. And this looked great behind the inner child cards and stuff. This week I'm going to use the same cloth just because I like how portable and squishy and comfy and cozy it is, and I'm going to use the purple side behind the cards. I think with all the green that's in the Forest of Enchantment, the purple is going to look really nice. So I'm going to use the same cloth. I'm just going to flip it around and use the reverse side for my readings this week, and hopefully that will make the pictures pop. Pictures are important because in my daily practice I don't have it handy so I can show you. Oh yes, I do. So this is my tarot journal. I recently did a full tour of this, which I will link up in the cards so you can see. But part of my practice is to take photos of my cards and journal my thoughts about those cards. So it's really important to me that the cloth actually accents or works well with the decks that I'm using so that my pictures turn out good. Because it's just important to me that my pictures are like viewable, that I can see them. Other things in my practice right now, so I have changed my practice ever so slightly. So I started this last weekend and I really liked how it worked out. So instead of doing every day a tarot, an oracle card, a rune, and 3 Lenormand cards, I've broken the practice up. So now I do a week ahead spread. My week ahead spread is 3 Lenormand cards for my week ahead message, so a forecasting message for the week, and a 3 rune spread that I developed, where the first rune is the energy of the upcoming week, the second rune is the obstacle I may face in the upcoming week, and the third rune is the action or advice for the upcoming week. So I did this last week. It worked out really great. I did that for my week ahead, and then I worked with just 1 tarot, 1 oracle card every single day in a predictive style to see what I needed to know about that upcoming day. And then at the end of the week, I did my reflections. So I wrote a little paragraph or so in my journal about how did everything pan out this week. I kind of looked back at my week ahead. I reviewed my daily tarot and oracle pulls and my journaling notes about those daily pulls. And I just took it all in and thought about it. And I'm really liking that practice. So that is what I'm working with right now. The only other thing that has changed in my setup here for my notebook since I filmed my setup for 2020 and just my current setup generally is that I've added 1 insert. So I have my weekly insert, and then I've added this one, which I put one of these last unicorn stickers on. This is Magic Do As You Will, and this is just a blank insert. And I'm planning to just use this kind of like a book of mirrors or just a random place to jot down spiritual goals or thoughts, things about my practice, anything that I think will be helpful in this sort of collection of my thoughts and feelings. So yeah, that is how my journal has changed just ever so slightly since the last time I filmed a video, but in general this is working out really, really well for me. I'm really enjoying this. And just to recap, the runes that I'm working with are the same set. They are the wooden set. I only have 2 sets of runes. I have this wooden set, which are these handmade pine runes. They're nice and big. And then I also have a set of black onyx engraved runes. And the Lenormand deck that I'm working with is the Fairy Tale Lenormand. I'm working with this particular Lenormand deck all the way through December, and I will change it up for January. So I'm really enjoying both of those. That is it for this week's weekly deck review. That's about all my voice can handle. So I'm gonna wrap this up here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye.